As you may know, Puff Daddy, also known as P. Diddy or Sean Combs, is currently in court fighting for his freedom. And every single day of this case unlocks some information you wish you never had. Honestly, some of the information coming up in this trial is the type of thing you hear and you suddenly lose balance and you need to get some holy water to wash your face before you can revert to your normal state of mind. It's wild. This man is facing so many serious charges, including sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation for the purpose of prostitution. I think we are currently on day 7 of this trial, and there has already been 7 witnesses called to the stand. These include the main accuser, Cassandra Ventura, also known as Cassie, who was Diddy's girlfriend for 11 years. Her mother has also taken the stand, a few of the male escorts that were used in the freak-offs. And finally, Diddy's own personal assistant. The main weapon in the prosecution's arsenal at the moment seems to be the freak-offs. Don't even try to come at me with it. But Francis, what is a freak-off? I know you know what a freak-off is. But for those of you who live under a rock and for some reason do not know what a freak-off is, I'm going to indulge you. But if you have any kids watching, this is the point where you put them to bed. Just load them into another room and lock it, because we are entering adult territory, if you know what I mean. So far, I have found 2 definitions for the freak-offs. One which is acceptable by law and the other which is a little out there. Actually, both of them are crazy out there, so I don't know what I meant by that. But the first explanation for a freak-off is, it is a drug-fueled sex marathon. Simply put, a freak-off typically involves consenting adults, drugs, maybe alcohol, and a lot of, sex. They get their freak on at these freak-offs. It might be weird and a little out there, but as long as everybody involved is consenting and the drugs are legal, it's fair game. But the definition of a freak-off in this P. Diddy trial is a multi-day sex event involving coercion, drugs, and exploitation. So the introduction of those words, coercion and exploitation, and maybe a little of illegal drugs, makes the freak-offs totally illegal. According to the prosecution, Diddy forced his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura to have intercourse with male escorts even when she didn't want to. He needed her to do that for his entertainment. Why? That wasn't even the worst part of it. Apparently, during these freak-offs, Diddy would be directing his then-girlfriend, Cassie, and the male escorts they are patronizing. Like, can you shift this way? Give me a big smile. Make it more passionate. Yeah, just like that. It was so wild and crazy that one time, Diddy allegedly instructed one of the escorts to urinate on his girlfriend and in her mouth. Diddy would be sitting in a corner with a camera filming the whole thing. But not only that, the man is also pleasuring himself. Yeah, I think we need to take a shot of the holy water because this is intense. So when Cassie took the stand in court, she described the aforementioned activity as degrading, dehumanizing, and abusive. She said something along the lines of, who would want something like that to be done to them? Which is another way of saying she really didn't want to be urinated on. But there's a little problem with that. Everything I've been saying so far happened on day 1 and day 2. That was when Cassie testified in court. But on day 7 of the trial, one of the male escorts who they had used in these freak-offs took the stand. And what this guy said contrasted what Cassie had said earlier. When asked about the incident, Daniel explained that Cassie and Diddy were in another room and came back to him, at which point Cassie herself allegedly requested that from Daniel. She asked him to pee on her. So you see, those 2 stories do not match up. They don't. Now let's get to another part of this trial where wilder things were said and in some cases contradicting evidence was presented. Let's go back to day 1 with Cassie. So while on stand, she expressed that she felt trapped in her relationship with Diddy. There was a lot of abuse, a lot of threats, a lot of physical violence, and whatever she did had to essentially be approved by Diddy. She testified that Diddy coerced her into engaging in the freak-offs and she was forced to use aliases during these events. She also mentioned that she was responsible for ensuring that the participants of these freak-offs were not undercover law enforcement officers. So someone who was supposed to be a girlfriend is now meeting up with escorts, vetting them and trying to gauge their involvement with law enforcement. It doesn't seem like something that would be in the realm of the duties of a girlfriend. And at some point during her testimony, she said it felt like a job. And I get it, because who would want to do that? But whatever, let's move on. She also recounted instances of physical abuse, threats, and expressed fears that Diddy was going to release compromising footage that could ruin her career. We're talking about sex tapes. That is basically blackmail and could constitute running a criminal enterprise if it's true. But another thing about the criminal enterprises is an enterprise has to consist of 2 or more people. And in this one, we only have Diddy making Cassie do crazy things. On the 7th day of trial, Cassie's mother took the stand and dropped, honestly, something nobody expected. She testified that Diddy demanded $20,000 from her, otherwise he was going to release explicit videos of Cassie into the world. One of rap's first billionaires extorting a civilian for $20,000. Why? The crazy part is Miss Regina and her husband had to take a loan to pay off Diddy. Why would he need $20,000 from this woman? Well, it's actually because he thought Cassie was dating Kid Cudi. Day and night. So just from that, you can see the flailing accents of coercion, abuse, and control. If I can't have you, then I'm going to extort your mom. And sure, he returned the money after 4 days, but it still counts as extortion. This is the part of the testimony where Diddy is accused of using his wealth, power and manipulation to control Cassie and subject her to repeated sexual violence over several years. That was the case the prosecution was trying to make. You force this woman into doing things she doesn't want to, and not only do you threaten, but you also beat her when she doesn't comply. So she had no option than to keep showing up to these freak-offs. But then Diddy's defense came in clutch with texts dating as far back as 2009, over 15 years ago. And these texts were telling a very different story than what we were hearing that day. It was one of enthusiasm, excitement, and eagerness to have freak-offs, and these were coming from Cassie. In one of such messages, she wrote, "Can't wait," referring to an upcoming freak-off. In another text, she expressed her desire for the freak-off to be uncontrollable. Those and a few other texts seemingly indicated that Cassie consented and willingly involved herself in the freak-offs. When she was confronted with these texts, she addressed the messages explaining that her participation in the freak-offs were driven by fear and the desire to appease Sean Diddy to avoid further abuse. So what do you guys think about this part? She's essentially saying, I did these things because if I didn't do them, this man was going to beat me up. If I didn't act like I loved these freak-offs, he was going to abuse me, threaten me, what have you. She emphasized that any expression of enthusiasm were influenced by the coercive and abusive dynamics of their relationship. Other witnesses, including Diddy's ex-best friends, and some of the escorts testified about witnessing Diddy's abusive and controlling behavior. He would berate her, throw bottles at her, and to some extent, everything that has been presented so far points to a pattern of control, abuse, and coercion. But will the evidence and the testimonies that have been presented and will be presented in the coming days be enough to put this man away for a very long time? Well, I don't know, but the court has 7 more weeks to figure that out. And I'll be bringing more updates about this case every week. So if you enjoyed this, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and you might enjoy this video too. Thank you, and I'll see you another time. Bye-bye.